I'm fine. Let's
Go
do
ahead.
this. Last time on the 13th Age, fantastical things happened. We kidnapped the architect's son, the little spoiled asshole brat Gavir. Yep, there he is. Smug little fucker. We'll get you one day.
He won't be smug for long.
That's right.
He doesn't know what he's in for.
That's right.
Red dragons don't piss around.
That's basically what happened. We kidnapped him.
Well, tell people how we did it, because they didn't just watch it.
Well, shame on you then. We infiltrated the architect's capital of Grand Castle through the sewers, fighting our way through golems and guardians, and then we lay in wait underneath the murky waters of said sewer and waited for the patrol to pass, where Gavir was sort of in the middle of patrol. We launched out, dressed up all like evil people, except Anakin, because he was gallant enough to put his ability to disguise on the dragon to shield Hirandor's frail heart from the indignity of what we were doing. But we basically ended up in a huge fight and a fighting retreat out of said sewer with Gavir in tow, stuffed him in a sack, and then escaped through to Crimson Peak, where he quickly showed his arseholiness by completely refusing to listen to anything we had to say, until we basically sat him down and was like, "Hey, listen, asshole. You will give us. We have done a lot for you. Now you will give us your damn time and not sit here and be all high and mighty, and trying to dismiss us like we're some fucking peasants. Like, oh, you did what I wanted. Good, you may leave." It's like, no.
You may leave.
Exactly. Not in the castle anymore. You little twerp. But after talking to him, he sorta kinda agreed to at least listen and like talk to Ace when she shows up. And I think we sent a message to Ace. Be like, hey, get here. Immediately. And hopefully that will show up. We might even send a Cloud Dragon to the village she was going to, because I think we had a name of the village somewhere in my notes.
Hey Ace, your crown is waiting.
Yeah, basically, send her.
Come get it.
Your crown is waiting in Crimson Peak. Tell that to her. Get here now, immediately. So we sent that out. Hopefully she's gonna show up, and then we sort of just took in Crimson Peak a little bit, I think. Yeah.
After a good couple days of you being in Crimson Peak, 3 days to be exact, Ace did show up. Apparently she was already on her way here. And as requested, talked with Gavir, or at least started the talk. Although it wasn't her who looked for him, but rather the other way around. As Gavir met her before, well, you might have even realized that she arrived.
The sneaky fucker, he's trying to turn her against us.
That was what I was just about to say, like, what if there's just like, man, those people bossed me around? Me too! I know!
They destroyed my tavern! Well, he bit
Are
me!
they so bad? Maybe they could help us get rid of them.
We will have... This will end up with us having to kill everyone, isn't it?
You know what? I'd actually be pretty okay with that.
Well, genocide is on at least half
the mean way to play, what's that game called? I don't remember it. Anyway, that's a tangent.
What? A tangent in this session?
To get back on track, the two apparently talked for a little while. Afterwards, Ace finally looked for you to inform you that she has arrived, and also to inform you that the little village of Granham, where the supposed Merchant of Death was lingering about, pretty empty. Well, sort of empty anyways, if it weren't for the tons and tons of mindlessly wandering undead that she didn't really want to clear out by herself. She has investigated the village thoroughly and has found no sign of anything, relating to the merchant at all.
Mm-hmm.
Just a whole lot of undead in the city's ruins, or the village's ruins, rather.
Completely unrelated.
He basically put down like a plague cauldron and then he left.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
And after informing you of that, she simply said that, she has to go back to talking with that architect's son.
Yes.
She doesn't really like...
your brother.
Yes, your brother, exactly. And this is your sister, and you will be nice to each other, otherwise we will sit down with you at the table, and Grandpa Graham will have a few words.
Man, well, I suppose.
Yeah. Also, in these 3 days, Gavir hasn't really made much progress in his actual goal of being trained. He has, however, bought a tavern.
What?
Which he now uses as his...
a tavern?
His
Come on,
sort of home.
What
That's
money
not
does
a way
he
to
have?
act inconspicuously, just throwing your shit around.
Did he send his dad the bill? Like,
Did he
You know what we
engulf
should
money
do?
before he left?
You know what we should do before we go anywhere? We should make sure that tavern has like the Reds Mafia against it, just to give him some opposition. You know,
yes,
just
put
train
the
him
pressure
to
on
deal
it.
with that
Yes,
problem.
yes.
You know, isn't that a great idea?
I think that's
Just
a great idea.
Just like pay some bad people to like you fuck up the tavern real
It's a
good.
nice tavern you have here. It would be a shame
Make
if
shit on it.
yeah,
Fucking
poop on that tavern.
wreck it. You know.
But now, perhaps, after these few days of you maybe being out and about by yourselves, perhaps you find yourself back in Beecher's luxurious mansion. Perhaps even Hirondo has managed to find his way into the rather narrow door and, to partake in some conversation to catch up.
He's just
or something
his
along
head
those
is just
lines.
in through the window. He's just laying on a pillow, like
Crimson Peak is like the capital for industry, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. Well, while Graham wasn't really super interested in architects sort of things with bureaucracy and such, he does realize that like new modern weapons could be of use to us. So I think he'll have spent this 3 days just going there and like checking up on what's cool modern weaponry. Not that he can use it, but knowing something about it is probably he'd be interested in.
comes back with grenades that he straps to his sword.
You know what that is. If someone throws it at you, you don't want to be like, "Oh,
a present!"
Yeah, looking around Crimson Peak with that goal in mind, Graham would have certainly found many a very motivated inventor and the likes trying to perhaps sell him some strange gadget that supposedly shoots crossbow bolts further than other crossbows and things like that. It's mostly improved versions of weapons he would most likely know. Crossbows, spears with mithril tips, swords of supposed material that is much better than steel.
Graham will put 250 gold as a prize to people who can, to the person who can most impress him with their cool, awesome shit. In 3 days.
In 3 days, all right.
That's a lot of money. That should get them.
That would certainly.
I'll delete that money from my sheet.
Attract some attention.
You'll basically sit down and say, show me what you got. Whoever shows me the most awesome thing that's the coolest and that I can understand, or that they can make me understand, we'll get the money to develop it further in some fashion. Kickstart something.
The most advanced and exotic weapons then would probably not be presented by the people from Crimson Peak, but rather by envoys of the Outsider, who have some significant amount of cooperation with Crimson Peak. Mostly Crimson Peak provides the industry, the Outsider provides the designs and many things that they produce here to sell and use. Things such as firearms, rifles, that Graham may have perhaps seen also in Grimskill, used by some of the hunters there. And perhaps more exotic than even that, a sort of malleable clay that, when ignited just right, supposedly can take down a mountain.
That's the kind of shit we need.
Of course, the demonstration was not really done inside, but if Graham has more than just 3 days, then something could be arranged.
All right. Well, so something cool will win the money certainly, and maybe Graham will get a few contacts with the engineers of.
What sorcery is this? How can fire undo stone?
Imagine the dead, but armed with this.
No.
Right.
Just fill them up with the clay and have them run in like
and suddenly just like a Napoleonic regiment, just like doing their line fire as soon as they come out of the ground. Yeah, that would be good. We don't have giants. We can have this.
Yeah, have exploding undead.
Thunder sticks and whatnot.
The
Anyway, that's what he'll be doing.
Well, on other news then, I guess. Unless Dark or Jonas, you had anything specific?
I do. I have a whole list, in fact.
Yeah, and sit down at a table then and do it in character.
Yeah.
Yeah, is part of that involved?
Let me prepare a area for you. Just for giggles.
Servant, table. Snap, snap, snap.
Let me find a table.
The servant's terrible around here.
If you say that loud, they will get hanged.
Yeah,
it's not usually hanging, but yeah.
Roasting.
Like we have that constantly have like a guard. And we can do that Roman like down finger, and then he just eats the guy. Don't insult the master's guests.
How dare you insult them with your inefficiency?
Although what you can gather from the servants around Bika's mansion, Bika does treat them rather well. They still, however, know their place.
Loyalty comes both from fear and just being paid too much to do anything.
Fear is an effective tool of management.
Mm-hmm.
That's
agrees.
Jonas, if I start with what happened in my downtime and then you follow on, perhaps, because I've only got a limited.
Yeah, let me prepare this area and then we'll do it in character.
Yeah, no,
I feel one of these seats is not large enough.
Yeah, it's fine.
The seats, it's fine.
Oh yeah, they're a bit small. Just
That is a very white mansion. Look at this, all this marble.
It's for red dragons. They're not discreet.
It's the only one that would fit Herandor.
It's not quite the obsidian mansion, but
The best word to describe the mansion would be excessive. In everything except space. The doors are almost intentionally very, very small.
How fortified is the mansion? Is it built to withstand like attacks? Like fire-resistant doors and strong hinges and locks that can be barred and like an armory and stuff like that. I'm thinking like they probably have like whenever the red dies, there's like a fight to who gets to become the next one. So
the front door is definitely a thick rock slab almost on a big hinge. But the rest of the mansion, the interior walls at least aren't overly thick. Of course, the entire mansion is not actually a building. It is more like a cave, as it is entirely underground. So one could assume that being inside of a mountain, it would be inherently pretty hard to, break. It doesn't have any like hidden weapons in it that you can find, anyways.
Right.
Yes, the mountain is coincidentally also a volcano.
It's safe.
Where is the enemy located in Crimson Peak? Is he at the bottom or at the top?
The enemy's proper lair is at the very, very bottom.
In the lava pool.
The magma throne.
Is he available? Like, can you petition? Can you get in there and be like, hello? Or is it like a queue or like?
It's very decadent, right?
You can sort of request an audience. If you just want to see him, then all you really have to do is wait around in Crimson Peak. During these 3 days, it's not entirely unlikely that you saw his enormous red shape ascend through the shaft.
Oh, I
of the
want to see
volcano.
that. I want to see that.
Flies up through it.
You know, if you, the best representation I have is this token.
Yes, show me the enemy.
Good fighter.
God.
Look at that guy.
Describe to me. Oh, look at him.
badass.
He's
Yeah, I
majestic.
like that one.
What the fuck?
Sargath
Hirondor provided.
Redfist. Red first or red fist?
Red first.
Red first. The enemy.
He is gloriously red.
He is
I'll
very
say.
red. He's bigger
not
than you,
that way
Hirondor.
Yeah.
Do we
Quite a margin.
like? I imagine like when he crawls out or flies by, like a hush falls over Crimson Peak or something. You know, like everyone just cowers in fear a little bit.
That's because no one can breathe because of the vortex that he creates just with his
Hot
bulk.
steam from
Yeah,
below.
it's just everyone
If you
just
look out,
huddles.
you get
Be
your
like, "Good
face get
lord!"
melted off. And probably makes so much noise, like flying up, like
Yeah,
like
it's just a
giant
hurricane.
explosion,
Yeah,
just sort of.
fire tornado.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's certainly a spectacle whenever he shows up, which isn't too often, but occasionally.
The Dragon Lord.
He is the biggest dragon, I think.
Devere certainly has something to live up to, huh? He has to protect against the enemy, after all. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
Though, I mean, this faction does seem like the best one. They have,
It is a pretty
they
good
have like
faction.
explosives, giant red dragon. Like, you know,
It's not
think-
that subtle.
we want to be friends with these guys.
Yeah, I am friends. Like,
I can freaking
I am-
agree with this.
Anarchy is well liked here for a reason I'm not quite sure yet. But
He makes others get strong because they fear him.
maybe, yeah, maybe that's what's actually going on. I don't know. He is.
Or he's a powerful ally to those who like him.
Yeah. He has a very good reputation here as a destroyer of things, I think.
I might want to get in on that. Maybe more the outsider, since we already have you for that. Regardless, we gather around the table.
The servants discreetly leaving.
You can start, Janice. Yeah, by all means.
Okay. Well, in that case, Enrican will look at the gathered people, and he will say, "Well, I have a few things I have done during the days here. First of all, I have gotten rid of the dagger. It was summarily destroyed by a contact of mine called Beckenes. He's one of the enemy's more eccentric and powerful war wizards, I guess, or artificers. I'm not exactly sure of his title. He's very good at destroying things, however, and he did. So that is taken care of, which is nice. The something happened though while I descended down into the wizard's lair. It is on the lower part of this complex, after all. I met a Rentananim, slightly smaller than Bykar, still large. Looks over. Would he be like Hirondor size?
He would be bigger than Hirondor.
All right. He blocked my way up and requested a conversation, which I obliged to. He was named Skyrin, or Skyren?
Scarron.
Skyren. And basically said or concluded that we have allied, or me specifically have allied with his brother Bykar, and that Skyrin, unlike Bykar, is not a naive fool, and that he wanted to acquire our services. Bykar is apparently fairly protective of us as a group and had not allowed anyone else to approach us. And so he did this down there to avoid detection, I believe. There is a conflict between Baikar and Scarron, of course, but that is part of this whole system, this culture. He ensured me also that any relationship we forge with this Scarron would be very beneficial for both of us, and that Baikar, once we have served our purpose with him, intends to discard us, or when the novelty of us wears off. To be more specific, what Scarron required is that he wants... Well, he recently hired a group, an adventuring group, that he sent to investigate some sort of thief that operated in Ember Spire. The thief had defiled Ember Spire and threatened the collapse of the entire structure somehow. He wants us to investigate this. See if we can figure out where the thief is, because the adventure group he sent in has not come back. Or did they? I actually forget if they came back.
The group he sent did come back, but on their way basically into Crimson Peak, they got ambushed by one of Scarron's brothers.
That's right. One of Scarron's brothers attacked the group on the way back and killed them off, I think. Scarron has tried to get... basically, he beat down the brother and demanded to know why, but the brother has not said. So...
And now said brother sits in Scarron's zoo.
Mm-hmm. That's true. He wants us to go there and find out basically what happened. If we do this, we will get a powerful ally, he claims. And he would even agree to tutor and train our little friend, as well as keeping him out of sight of his brothers and his father. He also said that although he is officially lower in the Crimson Peak hierarchy than Baikar, he assures us that that means little. My impression of him personally is that he seems more politically savvy than Baikar, if less muscular. Oh, and a detail that might be interesting to you. Look over to Hirandor. The in the tunnels dug into Ember Spire's structure in an attempt to collapse it, there was found quite the collection of silver scales.
Randall frowns.
As far as I have understood, helping Scarron with this would not go against Baikar. They are political opponents, but we're not striking out at any of Baikar's holdings or groups or anything, as far as I know, at least. It could be that I've been completely blindsided in this. We're attacking or attacking Baikar, but I do not believe so. I think this is something else, and might be worth looking into if we're going to Ember Spire anyway. Looks around the table. Thoughts?
Prime nods. It was always the more politically savvy ones that tend to be the weaker ones. Though he might very well be a more useful ally, he would also be less trustworthy, less predictable.
Yes, I still need to have a long talk with Baikar to try to suss out exactly why he helps us as he does. He seemed to be very fond of me. It might be, as Scarron suggests, that I, and by extension you, us as a group, is a curious oddity to him, and that fascinates him or amuses him somehow. Still, he has helped us quite a lot. Although I suppose we're helping him in return in things.
Yes. We should be careful also with whom we entrust the training of the young friend.
Yes.
I am personally unsure how much we can trust anyone in Crimson Peak.
Oh, I don't think he is very impressionable.
No, he seems to have his mental faculties in order, that's for sure.
And Ace can certainly protect herself and him if it comes to it. We know that much.
Anyways, that is the summary of my days. He leans back a little bit. Looks at the others.
Then I have some points I wish to bring up.
Could you up your microphone
Speak
a
up
little
a
bit?
little bit. Yeah.
I physically can't touch my controls right now, Skype's crashing on me. So
Okay.
I physically can't touch my Skype at all. Literally says it's not responding. So
Well, try to speak incredibly loudly then.
I will try my best.
There we go. That's
Talia just takes a second, leaning back, putting us kind of laying her staff down across her lap. So I got visited by a pair of individuals. I think you know them. They work for Charlotte.
oh yes, those.
Pair of women. Oh, what were their names? Rochette and I don't remember the other.
Anakin nods.
They brought me some interesting news, especially relating to the Fey Wilds. They have been investigating, after all, that location down near the elves. Well, the reports were exaggerated. While there is a thin membrane, kind of looks over to Hirondor, slightly worried that he's not going to understand, but regardless, between the worlds. But it's not open. We couldn't just slip straight through. Yet. There is two options there. Still. The Fae do go through this thin membrane. They have ways through. Leaving us with two options. If we wanted to try and get into the Fae without being detected by everything on the other side that's trying to pay attention, we could try to get a powerful Fae to take us through as its guests. Problem is, they have a habit of not listening to conventional diplomacy. We may require bargaining or a slightly larger show of force. I digress. Alternatively, of course, we can force our way straight through, though anyone who's not half asleep will notice. And the forest may take an entire war disliking against us.
I like that approach.
The invasion
Alternatively-
approach.
Alternatively, there may be a third option, though it's a somewhat uncertainty, which is... So everyone's heard of the various great dragons, the great red, great silver. You know them all.
Hmm.
No one ever speaks of the great black or the great copper. The great black, let's be honest, is not a major concern for anyone.
Oh,
All right.
I don't know why, but okay.
He was so good at hiding that nobody's ever found him.
But the larger concern is to the now deceased great copper. He had a title which most discarded as scholars. He was known as the Plainshopper. And I have been enlightened to the location of his tomb.
Hmm.
It's in the Shattered Shore.
Oh.
Do go on.
How did it came to be in such an exotic location?
That I'm not entirely sure of, how it came to be there. But considering his mastery he must have had, Tamlin are not sorcerers after all, they are generally studious. It's very likely there are secrets hidden there relating to travelling through the planes, between worlds, something which I'm sure interests all of us in multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Also, we've learned that body parts of big dragons are good for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out your contact Charlotte is actually very useful. Quite the information.
They do provide a lot of information, yes. They do have some quirks, though. Shifts a little bit.
this is the main bit of information I managed to pull together. This place is confusing, though, and very hot.
That is true.
Of those options, I prefer going to the Tomb of the Copper. If we are indeed going to cross the plains, it seems to me to have the knowledge and power to do that ourselves is better than to rely on some fae that might or might not betray us in the bargain.
I agree.
I liked the idea as well. More also, to discover what he had there. The knowledge he could have could change much.
Indeed.
There are many planes, and many of them that would be valuable to break into or out of from time to time. It is quite a distance away, I suppose, but
That it is.
that hasn't stopped us before.
Nor has it stopped I either. Looks to Hirindor.
Halldamir kind of looks around and says, well, my bit of news somewhat links with Americans.
Go on then.
I was visited by a green wilder while I was being shown to a room. And she went on to speaking in vaguities, thinking that I knew of certain plans. I did not. Confronted her, and she lunged. So I ended up beating her down. Then B-Car came in and dragged her out, and she scuppered off with her tail between her legs. I have learnt that she used to be a wilder messenger between the wilders and the Jarl villages. She used to just settle disputes, but she has slowly become more of the demander and giver of ultimatums. Though, when she first spoke to me, before I could decline my knowledge of her plans, she mentioned about they had a plan to use the outsiders' strange clay, I believe she said, to bring down the spire. I presume she means the Ember Spire. Though, from what she said, the Sharia, the Reds, will be dealing with the outsider, most likely fighting them, as is the Reds' tendencies. And the Wilders will turn their efforts towards the Jarl's men in full strength. Though they say, she said that this would allow me to avenge my father. I do not know what she means, as conflicting reports seem to think that he's either in the Fae or, in this case, dead. Or perhaps she is just too ignorant of the fact that he may be in the Fae. Either way, it would appear that silver scales in the Amber Spire and Wilders planning to destroy it all seem a bit coincidental. I could not suss out much more information, but at least this gives us some leads, some knowledge of what's going on.
So the attempt to destroy the Ember Spire is supposed to frame the outsiders.
He shrugs. Says possibly.
What purpose would there be otherwise? Is it a strategically important place?
No,
Thought it was a tomb.
it's a symbol. Destroying it would no doubt enrage the enemy enough for him to act. I don't know much of him. I don't think he is overly calculating.
So we simply need to prove that it's the Wilders who are doing it. And then, well, his anger will be targeted to them for attempting such a thing, no?
Yes, he might also be pliable to our cause, if that were the case, if we can somehow prove that.
Beyond that, I'm sure the outsiders would appreciate not being framed and would perhaps even take offense to, well, potentially being framed. They seem to have a working relationship here with the Reds.
So it seems.
We could potentially gain 2 allies by dealing with this problem.
Yes.
And beyond that, it is on the way to the Shadowed Shore, so to speak. The land route, at least. How would we find out about this thief, though? These problems. Do we have any contact there? We're just going blind.
Anakin shrugs. I don't have anything in Amberspire. We would have to go there and hope we could dig something up.
I'm on the other side of all my contacts.
Equally, I have never been to this part of the land before.
I suppose we were asked to simply go there and take a look at things. Maybe something will jump up. Maybe something there will think we know more than we do.
Yes, and move against us.
Perhaps Bikar's brother will provide us at least some way of entry. We're not going to be able to find out much just by looking at it from the outside.
I think our contacts with the enemy would be enough for us to actually do a fairly thorough investigation. Especially if we say we are there on Scarron's behalf. And Bikar's, for that matter. He also sent us there, remember?
Alright then. I trust that Ace can keep the little one in line. Don't really have much else to wait for then.
I assume she can, yes.
If that's all, then, you know, I will be ready to go to
It
Amberspire.
does... I'm somewhat curious, though. This does not seem like a Wilder plot. The Wilders are not really plotters, are they?
The Fey plot. Like,
Yes.
again, this person didn't say, like, they didn't say, say the Wilders are playing. They say that these fucking, that the Wilders will attack with the Jarl's people, right? They're trolls, basically.
Yes.
While this will put the Reds and the Outsiders, like, fighting over the Red Rift Canyon, McBriggan and Emberspire, like the battlefield zones, right?
I am dismayed to hear that there's still such infiltration going on. It would be nice to root it
think
out
it's that-
somehow.
I mean, it's that, like, they could get to the Grey, like, those people are supposed to be without feeling or ambition or anything that you can really grasp onto, right? But it's the whole, either you die or you go mad and join us kind of thing that they can do, right?
Yep.
So it's whoever really, it's like the old gods, right? If you dig too deep, you will suddenly join them.
Yep.
And there, we did hear that, like, a giant rift thing opened here, and some people looked into it at some point. Maybe they found something down there that drove them to this. Right? We heard that, I'm pretty
Yes,
sure.
no, we have. It's just
Something
I just
happened.
we had a way to
Like-
find them and execute them. You know, we took care of Granith and his cult, but we need to do
Well, I mean,
like a similar.
Presumably they will be in Emberspire.
Yeah, I just
Doing
think we
whatever
just
they
need
do.
to. I just want to
Slay them all.
Yeah.
Kill them all.
just start a cleansing of these people.
If there's a faction I want, 2 factions anyway, it's these 2. Like, it's the Outsider and Crimson Peak.
Mm-hmm.
The Outsider has just manpower and guns and like aircraft carriers, you know? That's stuff you want with you. And the Reds are massive. and have, well, basically the same things,
Mm-hmm.
but in dragon size.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, there's also like the Elf King, who has like a whole badass elf army of desert warriors and beetle plate and whatnot. Of course, the Jarl, who has lots of Viking people that we can fight with. Like the Free City, like has, I suppose, wizards and scholars and whatnot. Grand Castle was like men at arms. Really not that impressive, but
They have like phalanxes or something.
Tandenim battle dragons.
Mm-hmm. With like great swords.
No, seen that already, yeah.
Hirando looks to Talia.
I've just had a thought. Talia goes into her bag and draws out one of her diaries, flicking through it. I had an interesting vision the other night, and something which actually it's correct that the individual Ace was after. Would you say really? 1 second. Why is I? It's frustrating.
Oh, there you go.
It's like 1,000 times better.
I think his microphone's dying. I mean, it's a problem. I think I need to get a new one. The individual Ace was following the one in that village. Merchant was the correct word to help describe it, was it not? If I recall. On the topic of betrayal, I just remembered something. As Tanya was going to recite something she wrote down in her journal, that caught her mind. Now considering this. Considering all things that the merchant disappearance has bought time. Is it if that's the merchant that Ace and you guys encountered? That could be worrying then.
Well, the highest cloud dragon knows, and they're investigating things in the mists, right?
What worries me is one does
not-
not normally receive divinations for no reason.
And the Cloud Dragons are not searching anymore. They cancelled the expedition.
And this, you're sure this was what it was said in your dream, you said?
Indeed, it was an unusual one. I have received these very rarely.
Well, it seems to speak directly to you.
It is a worrying one to receive, though. The one yet lacks the potion.
They're trying to ingest the architect with the liquid. That seems the most.
This seems to be a
Possible.
person who is good to you. Yes? They seem to be warning you. The one is the one that's going to prolong the builder's life by using the potion that will make him immortal, but also insane, and to join the other side. The merchant's disappearance has bought time for us, since he has the potion and he has left and they can't find him. If the builder falls to temptation, meaning drinks the potion and lives, then you will know true slavery, meaning us, or you personally.
I imagine it will be our kind.
Perhaps. What is the builder? Like an architect?
I
That would
imagine.
make sense.
I imagine that refers to the architect. Unless you can think of someone else that would be more fitting to. Certainly I cannot think of many who I've encountered.
The source is deep within the mists. Would that be the source of the potion?
Perhaps.
We know this merchant disappeared on a shipwreck by the mists, and then he disappeared 4 years later with this potion.
That might be where he's gone then, if he has disappeared again.
Perhaps. If they wish, so they think the architect wishes to prolong his life.
It would make sense.
It is the architect they speak of. You would think your dreams could call him that.
Talia gives a half-hearted shrug in a sense. Unfortunately,
Well, I suppose
These are not
we have a pretty good way to find out if the architect's health is being kept by a shaman, a priest, a doctor, and a nature talker.
yes, presumably he would know.
If so, it is somewhat worrying. I would
Yes.
not like the architect's empire to be ruled by an immortal, insane dragon.
Neither would I, for that matter.
Perhaps this revolution will come after all.
Or perhaps we can stop it.
Perhaps.
See, where exactly is this mist?
The mist is surrounding this whole
Oh.
island.
Is that
We
mist?
pierced it when we came here. It's the reason that our force was so small, well, relatively to what it was. A terrible place. I'm sort of shakes his head a bit. It is a place I would not wish to go there, even though it is said they have become weaker and weaker in the 1,000 years since our coming here.
What I'm hearing then is if we wanted to investigate, though, that is a lot of area to search. We would have to speak.
Yes, the Cloud Dragons did speak to us about potentially having us go with them to investigate something in the mists. They, presumably, the highest cloud knows, the highest Cloud Dragon knows.
Indeed.
This brings up more options. Back then it seemed to be an exploration mission, something we didn't really deem necessary or important. However, if you have visions of it, someone certainly wants us to go for it. Oh, it could naturally be a trap. As with everything we do.
It could potentially be a trap, but if they're willing to set a trap for it, the person doing it must be rather powerful.
When did you have this dream?
A night or two ago?
I see.
It was shortly after I spoke to the two from Charlotte.
If only dreams had the courtesy of putting a name at the end.
They rarely do, unfortunately.
Graham shakes his head slightly. Only gods should speak in dreams.
Perhaps it was, perhaps it wasn't. I have no way to know.
Perhaps we shall meet soon. Huh? If it's a god, it might be very foreboding.
We have faced many foreboding things.
Yes.
Yes,
Seems
the
then
talks
that
of-
our attention must again be divided.
Indeed. The talks of treachery, though, did remind me of this, and probably a good thing as well. Talia will close her journal and put it back in her bag. There can never be a simple option, can there? This is the right way. I have no idea who that is, but I presumably we don't want it.
Those appear to be our options.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the Shattered Shore front, at least that one isn't
going anywhere.
Yeah, that one's not going to just auto-resolve itself.
Unless someone else knows about this too and wishes to remove it as an option.
Only Charlotte, to my knowledge, and her too would know. Well, I suppose anyone could know in theory, but for this situation. And still, even losing that would not prevent us completely. We could still get through. It would just be harder.
We have literally one time. I still think Ember Spy is the best first step.
The question is, do we have enough time? Indeed,
if your dream is indeed about the architect and he does go insane, we do have his claimants, and I'm sure many of the architect people would not like this new version of him. There would be a civil war, but seeing what I've seen these last couple of days, I can say with a full heart that I would rather fight alongside the new outsiders and the Reds than against them. Their battle prowess seems greater.
Either way, we have an issue, I suppose.
Yes, we do. Another thing is that we know the Cloud Dragons are looking into one of these issues, while no one is looking into the other.
The Cloud Dragons were looking into the issue.
Perhaps that is true. I
They have
do
stopped.
think they will try to solve it if they can.
I doubt they realize the severity of the situation.
And again, we have it just for a dream. All right, just to recover. It seems that Talia's dream is about the architect going potentially insane from drinking the potion because he doesn't want to die.
Yep.
We could stop him potentially by going out to find the source of this potion and destroy it.
Yeah.
Out in the mists.
Oh.
Which means going on the Cloud Dragon expedition and we'll get them to restart it.
I don't know. Is that no?
But Graham's thing, at least, is that he would rather have an alliance between us and the Reds and the Outsider than stop this architect from doing that. I think we have more to gain by stopping the Outsider and the enemy from fighting.
The thing is, if the architect drinks the potion, he will be like an undead
Really,
monster.
you're Granite's version 2, right? Yeah.
He'll.
Well, and he will not have to look like that all the time. He'll be able to hide it, like Granite
I know,
did.
but that means that Gavir won't be able to succeed him.
Oh, he will. Well, to post-fix it, you know?
Sure, we can't go there and be like, alright, it's time to...
You're right. He's a fucking monster. Let's
time to fix
murder
this.
him. I'm sure Ace has contingencies for how she planned to.
She probably... The thing is, though, I think she has planned to handle an old, frail dragon who can not really do much anymore.
We'll fight him. We just need to get in there, right?
It would be nice to stop this.
The thing is, would that, I don't.
It's a question of priorities right now.
Yeah, you tell. You guys know better. How what did it do to people? Did it make them more powerful than they were in life?
Granite became a weird, crazy, Cthulhu-sized. All warped and mad.
You become you drink it and you become a spawn of chaos.
Yeah, you get
just tentacles in mouth and screams, basically, and you get weird powers. And you want to summon more things like that, which is why we had to kill off
the world. Yeah. I mean, after a week of that, we could be pretty sure that the Architect's Court would be basically all that, and then spreading it, sort of a cult-like fashion. But I do think though that the Ember Spy is more important right now, more immediate, I should say.
I mean, it's what we have planned anyway, and.
Both are. I feel both are important.
we can handle Ember Spire. It won't take that long, hopefully. And
Knock some skulls together.
Yeah, so double checking. So what exactly do we need to do in
Cloud Dragons? Do you still need help?
What exactly do we do in Ember Spire? We need to do in Ember Spire was
find out who's trying to blow the damn thing up and prove that it is the Wilders and the Fae who are behind it, so that we can be like, hey, these guys try to blame you two to fight each other. Like, a way to make people like each other is to bring a third party who tried to hurt them both.
right.
And
That's generally a good idea. And then
another
then
secondary,
so
another secondary objective, as it were, on that one would be to see what the reports of the Silver Scales were, or at least for Irandor.
yeah, I think in the grand
Must
scheme
have
of things,
checked
though, we
that
haven't really linked that to anything other than the Silver Dragon died there at some point, probably.
Yeah, but
I
there's
don't
not
really
many
know
of
that
them.
it seems that spectacular. I mean, there were once, right?
I don't know. The Silver Scale seems like a personal quest for Irandor. Anrikin is not overly concerned with that at the moment.
If they are this silver, like, but she's not here. Like, then we could use them for building stuff. But
I mean, fixing that, and then we need to talk to Gavir and Ace and be like, hey, listen, this is kind of what's going down. Maybe you should make some plans in case your father turns into a horrific chaos monster.
can we like go and do like a little quick sheep? Just ask Gavir. By the way, would you say that a way to talk about your father's health is that it's being kept by a shaman, a priest, a doctor, and a nature talker? Is that at all familiar to you? Could you?
We could do a small scene here if you give me a moment to.
Because that's the question we really need to ask him. Like, just you really want to answer this correctly. Like, we're
Yes,
putting a
this
lot
is-
on this answer.
This is very important. All right.
Fate of a lot.
Like, did I have a bad dream, or is this mean something?
Because if it's him, if they call him the Builder, like you'd hope that dreams would begin being a little more clear about this sort of thing. But of course they aren't. Dreams.
Yeah, the problem is, was it actually just a dream, or was it a vision
Servant,
in a dream?
fetch
Or is it like a
Gavir.
completely other guy who has a throne in the mists and has built the world? I don't know. Who's the Builder?
Sheep is doing the Final Fantasy approach of being like, in the end, it was actually me all along! A character we've never heard about. It's like, oh. Well, that's weird.
So you sent the servant to fetch the small bronze dragonling from his newly purchased tavern.
We'll probably just go to the tavern, right?
Or
I mean, if he's in the tavern.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to.
Is he in the tavern?
You don't need to do as much as send people to fetch him for us. I don't think that's the right
No.
right relationship we want to have.
Yeah, we go to him and
Yeah, and be like, so is this a thing? Is that can you
like does this ring any bells to you?
Let me just move you over here then.
please tell me it's not? This is not a thing.
Like Yeah.
That would be like he hates doctors. I don't know.
he would never keep a nature talker.
Yeah.
Oh, never.
Yeah, Gavir's tavern is in the lower levels and is called the Working Man.
Ha!
It is from the outside a bit has seen better days. The sort of sign hanging over the door slightly hanging down, and the interior doesn't seem that large, although of course you can't see what's behind the door at the back. But mostly the tavern is pretty empty, except for Gavir and Ace sitting at a table, staring daggers at each other without really saying much.
Now, children.
They probably just finished like a 7-hour-long conversation now. They run out of things to say.
And then we enter and they're like, what? Like,
I mean, we storm
it's-
in as we do, you know.
yes, of course.
It's not much a what, but rather Gavir rather properly, rather politely, getting up from his chair, sort of greeting you, waving you in, smiling as he does. He says, well, what a surprise.
Not that much of a surprise, I think. I mean,
Gavir, a rather important question. Your father's health is presumably being kept by someone. His caretakers, would you say that they could be identified as a shaman, a priest, a doctor, and a nature talker?
He blinks
This is
at
a
that.
very important question. Please take your time to answer it.
Well, I suppose yes. Although nature talker, she is a wielder, but
Good
That-
God!
oh
Grabs
no,
up,
don't.
takes his head like,
Anrikin flips out. His head explodes. Quite
Oh no,
literally.
no. Just she is utterly loyal. I can assure you that much. All of them.
Grim
Are.
nods. Yes. Are all four of them utterly loyal, Gavir?
Shaking him.
Yes, I know all of them personally,
Not an ounce
and I know
of
my
treachery.
father. I know my father hasn't chosen them just without checking them first.
We have some
Have some bad news.
some pretty bad news. Have we told you about Graneth?
We told him
Or-
everything.
Oh, we did. Yes, we did. Yes,
did like a whole.
And
And we did
the-
Ace too.
we did. Yeah,
So,
no, Ace is in
They
on
both
this.
are like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, all right. So we basically like, listen. You know that horrific stuff that turns people insane and to monsters.
You have mentioned as much.
Well, we have some information that suggests that the architect will be tempted very soon to drink
We
that.
promised new youth.
Yes, eternal life.
life, perhaps even. And our source does indicate that it will not be likely that he can dismiss it. It is said that one of his people will find this, and they will, in the best of thoughts, bring it to him.
Believing it possibly to be a way to save him, to keep his health.
It will, but it will also make him
Mad.
join our enemies, become their pawn.
Oh, I wouldn't worry. He would never do something so foolish unless
Yes.
Someone he
well,
trusted.
unless his only heir were to have been kidnapped rather recently. In case he would feel perhaps obliged to act, which he cannot in his. Oh, no.
Hmm.
Yes, we thought it would be best if you two spoke of what you would do if such an eventuality was to come to pass.
Well, assuming your source is reliable, and if such an opportunity for my father would indeed occur, then there's two possibilities to react. One would be to not do anything and hope that my father does not make the wrong call, and the second one would be for me to return and reassure him that he will leave his city in good hands. But in the latter case, I would be giving up all the plans I've made, and in the long run, I would just perish eventually.
Arrogant looks at him. We have brought a warning. I don't think there is a easy call to make here, Gavium. We are.
Would he believe you if you told him you had a secret source that would inform him that he would soon do a very stupid thing? Does he trust you to that point? Trust your word to that point?
I do
Without
not
any
think he would.
evidence?
I do not think he would believe me if I told him that I knew what he was going to do and that it would be a mistake. But I do believe that I could influence him to not accept.
It is
He
also.
is. He cannot be forced to do what he wouldn't want to.
Well, that is the the beauty of this potion is that it is not necessarily forced on anyone. It is taken willingly. The promise.
Desperation.
So, yes, the promise is so sweet that few can resist it.
Well, you do not know my father as I do. He would not care about eternal life and eternal youth. He cares about the eternal life of a city, but not himself.
You said yourself, though.
Arguments could be made that the city would be better off as he was not to die.
If he drinks it, he will become a monster. He will become the tyrant that the most fervent of Ace's most militaristic minions envision him to be. He would be a true slaver at that point.
Gavir sort of rubs his scaly forehead with one of his claws, looking down on the floor, starts pacing a bit. Well, two options. One, I stay and hope that he does not accept, which of course is not a feasible option. Because if your source is indeed correct and as, well, reliable as you say it is, then he will have no choice but to accept. Option 2, I return. I am absolutely certain that I could prevent him from taking the potion, but once he does eventually pass away, I will not have succeeded in my plans to reach appropriate... Well, I don't even know what the word is for what I'm trying to accomplish, but suffice to say that come the meeting on Summit Isle, I would not survive it. And even if I did survive it, the city would not. Nobody would take me seriously.
So it's just, or we destroy the source of this thing.
It is also said by the same source that the leader of the Cloud Dragons might know where the source is.
Where would we find him?
Oh, in the mountains in there. Well, I can't call it a city, or a village for that matter. He sort of shrugs. I'm never entirely sure what to think about the Cloud Dragons, but I do know that they are reliable. I would assume that if you wanted to meet their leader, you could just ask in one of the posts.
Could we perhaps get a letter of introduction from you, or something similar, so the gravitas of the situation would be clear?
Certainly, if you would indeed want to meet with that Cloud Dragon to, well, prevent these two terrible options from ever being relevant, then I would be, well, suffice to say, I would appreciate it.
It is, of course, what we do, Gavir. Henrikin smiles, saving the day in the behind the scenes, as it were.
Just on that note, we also have a rather important thing to do, an Ember Spire to stop this whole city from going to war against the outsiders with all their explosive death machines. Puts a hand to his head. Our world certainly is never dull.
Our plan is to go and handle the Ember Spire situation first, and try to reconcile the outsider with the enemy, and then perhaps forge an alliance against the Wilders, who we believe are behind this, through their agents, the Fae. When that is dealt with, we will go for the Cloud Dragons, see if we can track down the source and destroy it.
Perhaps, if this leader would be... We could perhaps write in the letter that we know what hides in the mist and we wish to find it with his help. Perhaps that would bring him to be able to come to us, saving us the time of coming to him.
Henrikin nods. If the leader can be persuaded to meet us in Ember Spire or here, that would be...
highly preferable.
Yes.
Perhaps.
Well, as for trying to forge an alliance between Crimson Peak and the outside, I find that to be difficult, to say the least. Crimson Peak does not form alliances. It would if there was a threat dire enough, but...
That's what we're going to Ember Spire to prove that there is.
That is indeed what we are going to supply, yes.
Oh, proof will not be enough. Half the continent would have to be on fire for Crimson Peak to accept alliances.
In good time. At least we need them to not fight.
Yes. But if we can just prevent a outright war between them, that is fine. If we can direct the anger of Crimson Peak towards the Wilders, that is fine. The Wilders are lost. They are fully embraced the Fae and the madness that brings, and anything we can bring to bear against them would be good. We do not need an official alliance. We just need that they fight the same enemy.
A truce first, alliance later.
Yeah. Let us hope that it never comes to that the half the continent is burning, but
right now,
so far we're doing damage control.
Yep, putting out fires.
Trying to make sure that this ship sinks as slowly as possible.